Alrighty, well let's get started then. Good morning everybody, or good afternoon if you're on the East Coast or joining us from somewhere else in the world. My name's Ken Shaw, I'm the CEO of SOS, and today is a very special webinar because we're rolling out our new SOS Pulse Management Framework, which is something we've been working on for a long time here and something that we've had a lot of demand from our partners for. So we're very excited about that, and that's going to be the second half of the presentation today. Just a few housekeeping matters. Firstly, there's going to be a Kindle giveaway, and at the end of the webinar I'll give instructions on how you can go in the running for that Kindle. The agenda for the webinar today is that we'll do a brief SOS company overview. We'll briefly look at the backup and DR industry and the problems with traditional hardware-based backup. We'll then look at SOS's cloud-based backup technology and how that solves a lot of those problems. Look at the SOS partnership model and how you can become an SOS partner. But then the big thing we're going to be looking at today is the Pulse Management Framework, which is our brand new central management, deployment, controlling and reporting engine, which is very exciting. In terms of the way that we find these webinars work best is if they're interactive. So we've got a bunch of people here on the webinar today. I'm really hoping for lively conversation, lots of questions. A few of you have already used the questions tool there. I really want to get as many comments and questions as possible to encourage the dialogue. Ideally, we'd open up the mic and everybody could talk, but with so many people on the line, the typing works best. So I've got a question for you all to test out if you're listening and see if it's working. If you can just type into the questions panel and go to webinar, whether you're an existing partner or whether you're evaluating becoming a partner. That would be wonderful and help me get a sense of who we've got in the audience today. So we'll do Q&A all throughout the presentation, and that's really the best way to get your answers for your questions. We'll also do a Q&A at the very end of the webinar, but it's always better to be able to discuss it as we're moving through the content. Intended audience for the webinar today is both existing partners and prospective partners, and our typical partners are MSPs, IT shops, people who sell IT products and services to consumers, small businesses, and enterprise. Great, we've got a bunch of comments here, so thank you Bill Blunden and Bob Ellison and Dennis Solis and Bob Brown and everybody else who's posting there. Keep posting. We've got about 30 responses there, but we've got 60 people in the webinar. So if you haven't told me who you are, let me know. Are you existing or are you evaluating? All right, so with that, let's dive in. So who is SOS? I hope many of you are familiar with us. But we're a company who's been focused exclusively on the online backup market for nearly 10 years now. We were founded in 2001 in Australia. Since then, we've grown to being a global operation with operations in 4 countries, 10 data centers around the world, a couple hundred employees around the world. We've got nearly 10 million PCs have been protected with the SOS grid. So we're not a startup by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, by some of those metrics, we're the largest online backup company in the world. But most importantly, we're a company that focuses nearly exclusively on offering online backup as a platform for partners. So 80% of our revenue comes from the channel and comes from our partner network. We've got best-of-breed technology. We continue to win a lot of awards for our product. We're very proud of that, but the thing we're most proud of is the success that we enable our partners to enjoy, getting people into the online backup business rapidly with their brand, helping them then drive ongoing recurring revenue at high margin. In terms of our growth, we've been growing pretty spectacularly. We've grown at 300% over the last 18 months, and that's not just about SOS doing a little chest thumping. Because our revenue comes from our partners, our growth metric is a really good indicator of the success our partners have. So one of the questions you should have when you're evaluating an online backup company is, can they help me make money? And here at SOS, we've helped a lot of partners get into the online backup game very, very successfully. So our growth is representative of the success our partners have, and for our existing partners on the line today, welcome and thanks for joining the webinar, and for prospective partners and people who are interested in becoming an SOS partner, welcome as well to the webinar, and today I want to address all of your questions. So the question I'm going to ask you at the end of the webinar is, if you're a prospective partner, what's stopping you from becoming a partner? What are the key things you're worried about? What are the things you want to know more about before you become a partner? And we can have that discussion. Just a little company history. I think I've actually covered most of this, but looking at our goals, the strategies of SOS haven't changed since the beginning. We've always been dedicated to being the best online backup technology company in this space. We've always focused on being the leader in the white label market, and we've always specialized on being a total SaaS solution leader for partners, right, for MSPs, for VARs, for IT service providers, and other independent software vendors. In terms of where we sit in the market, we play a little bit in the consumer space and in the enterprise space, but our real wheelhouse is the small business space. Both we sell a little bit directly, but mainly we sell through our channel to small business. So we look at our prime customer is the partner that sells to the small business, right, which is the majority of today's audience. So we're here to serve you, and you are our customers. And what is it that we're about? Well, we take all of SOS's expertise in technology and knowledge and infrastructure, as depicted on the left-hand side of this slide I've got from marketing. We then run that through your business, your marketing strategy, and slice and dice out technology and product offerings in different ways to meet your business, to then help you drive revenue and to help you drive incremental, high-margin, recurring revenue from selling online backup as a managed service. And here's just a few examples of some of the rebranding work that we've done with other partners. You might be familiar with some of the brands on screen. We've got over 400 fully white label partners around the world, and more than 1,000 partners in total. So, we do this all day long. All right, so let's look briefly at the backup technology landscape as it has existed. In the consumer space, there's traditionally been no real standard for data backup. Where there has been backup being used by consumers, it's not often firstly, and it's hardly ever off-site, and it's usually some sort of jerry-rigged system using a little software, a little hardware, maybe a USB flash memory key or an external USB hard disk drive. In the small business space, though, by contrast, there are embedded technologies. Tape still has the lion's share of the market, and there's a little bit of disk as well. They both fall into the category of what we call centrally architected, hardware-based backup. And it's on-site, it's got a lot of problems, and we're going to talk about those in the next slide. There's usually then, so within that category, the solution can usually be looked at as being a three-part solution. There's some hardware, there's some software, and then there's some labor. And it's usually a lot of labor. And that labor is usually done by the people we've got here in the audience today, the IT VARs and resellers that support small businesses. And that's usually a lot of labor that you don't get paid well for, so it's often time that is a sunk cost, and it's very rarely profitable. So traditional backup technology and hardware-based backup technology has a lot of technology problems, but from a business standpoint, it's also a nightmare for resellers who have to service it. And then in the enterprise, same three things of hardware, software, and labor, but then often a services component that goes toward the initial deployment. So when you're selling a $100,000 backup solution, it'll be very common to have perhaps a $20,000 implementation fee followed by the rest of the capital cost. Let's contrast that with cloud-based backup. We take your brand, your name, so picking on some audience members, we take Jeff Weber online backup or Jason Kubik online backup, Bob McConnell online backup. We take the SOS software, SOS infrastructure, SOS services, and SOS support. We wrap all of that up under your brand and deliver a software as a service cloud-based backup solution to your customers. And we've got some statistics here on the decline of tape. I'll just quickly go through those, but here's one statistic I do want to draw everyone's attention to. In a recent survey by CTO Edge magazine, more than 70% of surveyed CTOs said that they intend to shift all or some of their backup load to the cloud over the next couple of years. And so that led to a quote from one of our partners, which I always like to call out. If we don't sell our customers cloud-based backup solution, someone else will. So why not us? So that's the question I want to pose to everybody here on today's webinar. If you don't sell online backup to your customers, someone else is going to. So why not you? All right, just a quick total cost of ownership comparison. This is a real-life customer example of ours just showing, and the point of this slide is to show that online backup provides, not only does it provide much better technology to the customer, and we're going to look at that in detail, but from an economic standpoint, online backup is a far better play for both your customers and for you. So in this scenario, this customer spent $6,146 to deploy a tape-based solution. You can see the components on the left there, tape drives, tape devices, backup exec, some software, came to $6,146. For exactly the same backup configuration, his online backup cost was $1,000, so only 16% of the the cost outlay. Over 5 years, it was $9,130 for the tape solution and $5,000 for the online backup solution, which is $1,000 a year. So from the customer's standpoint, this was far better play economically. TCO was dramatically less using online backup. If we look at it from the reseller's standpoint, so from your perspective, reseller made 6% on that initial sale, so $500 roughly, and that was it, once-off, one-time fee. With online backup, this reseller made $500 per year every year. So 5 years of recurring revenue for $2,500 over the 5-year period is what the reseller made, and yet the customer's still paying less than half of what he would have paid using tape. And that's really, and I think that snapshot sums up what the move to online backup is all about. It's dramatically better backup service for the customer at a much better price for the customer, and in a supply chain that is good to the vendors. So it makes a lot of sense for you at your part of the technology supply chain to move to online backup, not only because it gives your customers better data protection, but because it's better for your business. And just comparing some of the strengths and weaknesses of hardware-based backup, be it tape or disk versus online backup. We all know the problems associated with deploying tape-based backup. They can be very complicated deployments, take a lot of time. With online backup, it's set and forget. You've got a small software agent which you can push out over the network, and with Pulse, we're going to see later today how you can deploy Pulse to up to 5,000 PCs with one small executable, which is pretty cool. From a coverage standpoint, hardware-based backups always had a lot of challenges. So laptops were nearly never included in corporate backups that were architected around hardware. Branch offices similarly. Really anywhere there was distributed user data. The distributed user data would often not come under the central backup regime. With online backup, by contrast, every single device is connected to the backup cloud. So all the laptops, workstations, Blackberries, iPhones, no matter where they are in the enterprise, they're under the backup cloud. Media, with hardware-based backup, there's always been media challenges, taking them off-site, checking them, verifying them, securing them. Some of the biggest data loss incidents in the last 10 years have been from misplaced tapes. With online backup, there's no muss and fuss with media. It's all pure software as a service. From a recovery standpoint, hardware-based backups have always been quite arduous. A recovery could take days to recreate an environment. With online backup, not only can you recover the data centrally from your management console, but your customers can actually recover the data right on their desktops. So you've got user-level recovery. Access. With hardware-based backup, access is a nightmare. It's got to be routed through central IT, and it's very time-intensive. With online backup, particularly SOS is cloud technology, access couldn't be simpler. So, for example, using an iPhone, I can search all of my computers in my cloud and 5 years worth of data that I've got backed up in my account, all from my iPhone in real time. I can then recover that data onto my iPhone or onto my BlackBerry. Now, that's not an online backup thing. We're the only ones in the world who do that. And all of your customers can leverage the power of our access technology through your brand and through your system built on our platform. From a management standpoint, online backup is far less burdensome. From a management standpoint, it's set and forget. From a cost, we looked at the TCO. Online backup is far more affordable for your customers, and then the revenue point at the bottom in the blue highlight. That on hardware-based solutions, you're looking at single-digit margins and once-off revenue. It's expensive to run, expensive for you to support. Whereas an online backup,